When people dive into debates about the greatest of all time in nearly any discipline, those conversations usually include a lot of the same elements. There's an argument to be had about impact versus consistency, a conversation that wanes between competitive dominance and the era in which that dominance was present, the merits about being a standout star in a league or bringing your team with you to win league championships. Regardless of what your stance on these questions might be, it's rare for there to be an almost unanimous agreement when it comes to who is the best. And yet, when it comes to League of Legends, there really is only one true answer. While his greatness can't be denied, his incredible skill and numerous championships only provide the foundation for the story at the heart of his legacy. While he would use brute force and skill to rise to the top, he would also eventually fall far enough that many wondered if he would ever truly return to the peak of that summit. So, join me on the deep dive as we look into how the unkillable Demon King was eventually slain, and how Faker would rise like a phoenix from the ashes. In 2009, League of Legends is released to the world, and only 18 short months later, the game's popularity would propel it into a global phenomenon. While its impact would be felt worldwide, it would take deep root in the eastern market of Korea, and eventually find its way into the hands of a young teen who enjoyed playing games with his father and friends. However, he quickly realized that playing games with his father in casual matches wasn't going to maintain a challenge for very long. And in the span of just a couple years, he had gone from being afraid to play ranked matches to the #1 ranked player in all of Korea. And it wasn't long after that the professional league would come calling, and the newly labeled Faker would answer.
Oh, look at the cleanse, look at the moves! Faker, what was that? Find them all! He's gonna go down, Faker picks up the kill. Faker gets the last laugh! Oh my god! Oh, wow! Faker! Can you say GG?
He might be just the best mid laner in the world.
In his first season with SKTT1, Faker had what is arguably the best rookie season of any player in the competitive league, even to this day, securing a third-place finish in the spring stage, an MVP nod and international championship title during the summer stage, and from there, he'd go on to lead his team to a world championship victory, all within the first 7 months of professional play. But for a player like Faker, these accomplishments would merely set the stage for what would prove to be only the very beginnings of the greatest competitor to ever play the game. After his breakout rookie season, Faker would continue his dominance into 2014 by taking home wins at the Paris All-Star Invitational and the NLB Spring Championship. But that's when he really got started, as he would lead T1 to take both the Spring and Summer Championships in 2015, followed by back-to-back World Championship wins. But unfortunately for Faker, he would soon learn that nothing lasts forever. "2017 would see T1 continue to assert their supremacy in the LCK, finishing the Spring stage with an impressive record of 16-2 before going on to win the Spring Split Championship. But of their 2 losses, one would come at the hands of a surprisingly scrappy Samsung Galaxy. A relatively new team to the competitive scene, this team was made up of an assortment of strong players including Ambition and Ruler, who would go on to be Faker's other half in what is considered by many to be one of the biggest rivalries in all of esports. While this junior team was coming together and proving it had what it takes to compete, there was never any serious consideration that they could contend with the power of T1. However, when Samsung Galaxy went on an absolute tear through regional qualifiers, group stages, and then the playoffs, fate decided that speculation simply wasn't good enough.
Game 1 of the 2017 League of Legends World Championship Final. Samsung Galaxy only give up 1 turret this entire game and absolutely dominate SK Telecom.
That was so insane from Samsung. There was so much damage coming in.
Samsung Galaxy retake another game. And he blows up bang. That's the one.
They're supposed to lose these team fights, yet they turn it around.
Do you have what it takes to win the game? Ruler on the Nexus. The upset is complete as the kills come through.
In a best-of-5 match, to determine the best team in the world, it only took 3 games. With such a blowout, many wondered what this meant for the future of T1.
The SKT Dynasty is over! All hail the new kings!
근데 상영이가 우는 모습을 본 거는 처음이었던 것 같긴 해요. 근데 저 때 제가 바로 옆에 있었는데 같은 팀 동료가 그렇게 슬퍼하는 모습을 또 보니까 마음이 많이 안 좋았죠.
저도 울었죠. 이제 자식이 우는데 뭐 안 우는 거 어떻겠어요.
Faker didn't know it at the time, but he lost far more than a game that day. During the offseason, his teammates Peanut and Hooney would be let go, and they would be followed shortly thereafter by the head coach, C. Carter. While the loss of any seasoned players is likely to have a huge impact on a team, 2018 at least held the modest silver lining of the assistant coach, Coma, being moved up to the top spot in the coaching lineup. And despite a focused and dedicated effort from the new coach, and as talented as their new roster was on paper, 2018 would see T1's misfortune continue to mount. The spring season would see them settled with a 4th place start, and the spring stage playoffs would see them eliminated after just the 2nd round. From there, they would miss MSI entirely, slip to 7th in the summer stage, and the team that had won 3 of the last 4 World Championships wouldn't even be competing in Worlds at all this year.
Everyone at the Nexon Arena and you in the chat were there when the dream died for SK Telecom T1. The question finally has an answer. Can SKT still make Worlds? Sadly, the answer is no. That era is over.
Despite the doubters, T1 would show signs of life in 2019 by taking the Spring Split Championship. They'd go on to place 4th at MSI and amazingly win the Summer Split Championship as well. Unfortunately, when they got to Worlds, they would fall short of victory once more, being eliminated in the semifinals. While coming close and stumbling at the last hurdle would be enough to show improvement on the previous year, it wouldn't be enough to live up to the legacy that was expected of Faker and T1. And just like his big losses from the last 2 years, Faker would lose more than just a championship. Serving as the figurehead of the organization, the father figure and protector when Faker was far from home, and the most decorated coach in the history of the league, 2019 would also take Coma as well.
그때 당시에 이제 우리 T1의 기대치는 기본이 우승이었었고, 예를 들어 또 승리를 했다 하더라도 이렇게 왜 못 이겼냐, 네, 그런 얘기가 나오던 팀이어서 계속 강행군을 해왔었고, 제 개인적인 생각으로 너무 힘들었을 거라고 저는 생각해요. 왜냐면은 저도 너무 힘들었었고요.
(2020) saw T1 fall into familiar form, with Faker leading the way to a strong start in spring, winning the Spring Stage Championship, and then beginning to struggle in the summer. Shortly thereafter, and for only the 3rd time in the franchise's history, T1 would then fail to qualify for the Worlds tournament. At this point, questions began to emerge about whether or not Faker was truly as good as people thought. And going into the 2021 season, Faker was now 25 years old, in a league where its most competitive superstars were still in their teens. With Faker slowly gaining the perception of a great player that was simply no longer able to deliver a world championship, Faker knew the pressure was on to deliver, and a strong showing at Worlds was an absolute must.
It will be an amazing semifinal. Damwon Kia going toe-to-toe with T1. The best right now versus the best that ever was. The shot, Khan taking a decent amount of damage back, but Khan will drop for first blood. Faker picking up the kill. Canyon turns it back, and it's disaster for T1. Damwon Kia, they're going in. Gomushi going down. Khan forced to back away, carrying it. Faker just getting torn apart. Faker over the wall, 16. Damwon Kia getting routed in the river, but Canyon still standing strong for a moment. No, double, triple for Gumayushi. Showmaker wants to make a play, but not today. Sit down, Showmaker. This is T1's time.
After going even on games, Faker would look to put the team on his back, and went on an absolute onslaught of diving headlong into the enemy team to secure incredible kills that would turn the tide in crucial fights to claim victory in Game 3. Recognizing that if you want to wear the crown, you have to go through the king, Don Juan would adapt their strategy to target Faker early and often. With Faker often falling to mobs of enemies, Don Juan would strike back to take Game 4 in decisive fashion.
Who else to push them to a Game 5?
And in a final and deciding Game 5, T1 would once again find history repeating itself.
Not the next Faker, Showmaker. Dom Juan Kia will not be stopped. Damn old legends and old legacies. Goodbye, Faker. Goodbye, T1. Hello, Dom Juan and Showmaker. They will defend their title.
Beyond the pain and frustration of losing, there was something about this match that made it even harder for Faker.
거기서 경기가 다 끝나고 이제 저한테 먼저 다가와서 수고하셨습니다. 네, 이런 얘기를 했던 게 기억에 남는데 이 부분은 뭐라고 좀 표현할 수 없는 부분의 감정인 것 같아요. 네.
And with that, many T1 fans simply assumed that that was it. While he remained an extremely skilled player, the sun had set on Faker's career and a world championship just wasn't in the cards anymore. But rather than to prove the doubters wrong, Faker entered the 2022 season with something to prove to himself, and the rest of T1 would rise to the challenge. T1 wouldn't just start spring strong. They would achieve a historic accomplishment by going 18-0 for the spring stage, and then adding to their dominance by remaining undefeated on their way to the Spring Split Championship. While they would taste their first defeat of 2022 in the mid-season invitational, they would still offer a stellar performance by falling just shy of victory and taking second in the tournament. From there, they would offer a 15-3 effort in the summer, and once again fall just short of ultimate victory in the finals to a strong Gen G team led by their rising superstar Chovy and their pickup of Faker's longtime rival and legendary bot laner in Ruler. While it's true that they didn't maintain first place in every split or tournament that they entered, it was still extremely clear that T1 was in top form. So, when the 20-18 DRX went on a Cinderella run to ultimately end up facing them in the grand finals, T1 had every reason to believe that it was finally their time to return to the throne.
할 수 있는 팀들이 다 떨어졌다고 생각하고 있어서 저희가 상대적으로 너무나 유리하다고 생각하고 있어서 이것을 재면서 이건 이제 내 거구나 라는 생각도 하게 되었었던 것 같은데
T1 might not have known it at the time, but they would learn that there is no poison more insidious than hubris.
눈에 꽉 힘 팍 주고 근데 DRX 우리 존중하자 잘하잖아 그치? 우리 겸손하게 마지막 후회 없이 하자 눈에 꽉 힘 주고 얘들아 자, 감독님 갑시다 에이 벌스 우리는
It was T1, a titan, a dynasty, a team that had won more than twice as many matches going into the finals as DRX. No one gave them a chance to emerge victorious. So it was no surprise when T1 took the first match in decisive fashion. Unwilling to roll over and die, DRX would then strike back by taking the second match to tie the series. And defying all odds, T1 and DRX would then trade the next two to tie the series going into the final deciding match. With the series tied at match point, Gumayusi would come up with a huge play that would provide T1 an opportunity to launch an attack at DRX's base. Unfortunately, DRX would be waiting there to defend, and the attack would fail. But in doing so, it allowed DRX to launch an attack of their own.
일단 그때 당시에 결승전에서 졌을 때 뭔가 준비 과정도 되게 좋았고 이제 결과도 좋을 거라 생각 예상을 했지만 안 좋게 되고 나서 개인적으로 이제 뭔가 그렇게 열심히 노력을 했는데 우승을 못한 거면은 좀 나에게 문제가 있지 않을까 생각해서 되게 힘든 시간을 보냈던 것 같고.
After facing such a crushing end during a year where they were expected to win, morale was low going into the 2023 season. While Faker's competitive edge gave him no choice but to march forward, 2023 would prove to be just as challenging a year as the few before it. But this time, it would prove difficult for entirely different reasons. As casters, players, and fans dissected Faker's future potential in the league, fate laid out a challenge for him that would allow him one final test. In order to move forward, Faker would have to go back and do battle with his past. (2023) would start with Faker returning to the previous summer to avenge the loss against Gen G when they met again in the Spring Championship Finals. Only instead of facing Chovy and Ruler, it would be Chovy and his old teammate Peanut that would edge out a victory against T1. As a poetic twist, his old teammate Hooney, who played with T1 the last time Faker and Peanut were together, oversaw the match as a commentator. From there, the mid-season invitational saw Faker in a showdown that went all the way to Game 5, where his old rival Ruler lined up across from him with his new team of JDG. Despite a good showing, they would once again fall to the mounting pressure and be eliminated in the semifinals. Going back to the summer split, then Worlds 2022, the previous spring and now MSI, this would mark the fourth championship tournament in a row that T1 would fail to secure a victory. But as difficult as the season had been for Faker thus far, it was nothing compared to what he would deal with next.
연락을 회사에서 딱 받고 나서 아, 왔구나. 이제 왔구나. 그 시기가 벌써
10 years of competing at the highest level had taken its toll. And now, one of Faker's most important tools was starting to fail him.
팔에 이제 좀 불편함이 있었던 건 서머 때 1라운드 중반부터 아마 있었던 것 같아요. 처음에는 저 손가락에 이제 감각이 없어지는 게 경기 끝나고 뭐 몇 분 있다가 좀 없어졌었는데 나중에는 이제 경기 끝나고 나서 거의 하루 종일 계속 감각이 없어가지고 경과를 좀 보면서 계속 경기를 했던 것 같습니다.
Even with Faker's incredible competitive drive, the problem would only get worse. And after conversations with his team and coaches, the decision was made. Faker was placed on medical leave, and for the first time in 845 days, Faker would not join his team on stage. Filling in for Faker would be an untested rookie from T1's training league by the name of Poby. Interestingly, Poby would be looking to fill the biggest shoes in the entirety of the league at the same age Faker was when he played his first match nearly a decade ago. While Poby was supported by a lineup that had proven that they had what it takes to win and had a lot of skill in his own right, he simply wasn't Faker, and the results made it clear how big the gap between them actually was.
Faker did get injured. They are on a 4-loss streak.
Though Faker's condition remained an unknown, one thing was absolutely clear. If T1 wanted a shot to qualify for Worlds, they were going to need their superstar in the lineup to do it. In what was originally thought to be a 12-week break to allow him to recover, Faker would return to the lineup in just 31 days. After finishing summer with a 9-9 record, T1 clawed their way through the summer playoffs for a last-chance effort to secure a spot at Worlds. Standing in their way was KT Rolster, a longtime LCK rival and a heavy 10-4 favorite for their all-or-nothing matchup. While everyone knew that T1 didn't stand a chance, it seems like no one remembered to tell Faker.
And T1, they don't even need a Baron to win this game.
Faker has just avoided death.
The stun's not going to work. The cleanse is beautiful.
And this is just what Faker does.
Every carry on T1 is massive, and Zeus will get the last one against Substitution grabs the double. The Nexus turret will be taken down, and T1 will deny the reverse sweep, and they'll qualify for the World Championship.
After a relatively unimpressive season, Faker missing a whole month due to injury, and almost everyone believing they didn't have a shot at winning in the finals, T1 had somehow earned just enough points to keep their hopes alive. While T1 had managed to sneak their way into the playoffs for Worlds, the path they now had to walk to get to the top looked impossible. Of the 4 LPL Chinese teams in the tournament, you had BLG, who had never lost a best-of-5 to T1. Ever. And constantly battling them for second place was Weibo, one of the strongest in the LPL. And then there was the new home of his rival ruler in JDG, who were currently in the process of trying to complete what is referred to as the Golden Road, an accomplishment that requires the team to win the Spring, MSI, and Summer Championships. The heavy favorite now only needed a win at Worlds to complete the historic achievement. But before Faker could rewrite any of those histories, he had to go back to better times to face his former teammate and protege in Scout, who is now not only looking to add to his World Championship, but looking to leave Faker's shadow behind for good. And to add just a little more pressure to an already impossible situation, by the time their match with LNG was set to begin, the other 2 Korean teams in the tournament that T1 had already lost to this season were out, leaving T1 as the sole remaining Korean team left. And with that, the hopes of a nation rested on the shoulders of T1.
For T1, the task ahead of them is absolutely monumental. Only LPL team starting with LNG today. And if you get through that, well, then you get to play JDG, so it's just insane.
Gumayushi ascending to godhood in that moment as LNG are torn to shreds. And now what the hell? Will it be enough to lock down Zeus? No is the answer. Scout given to the Aatrox as tribute. They see the weakness in the armor of LNG and they tear it asunder. They remain composed. They close out cleanly and bring us to match point. Team falls away. Faker stays standing. T1 stays standing. The last light of the LCK burns bright as they head to the semifinals.
As T1 celebrated, and rightfully so, they had to temper their excitement, as they had an absolute monster of an opponent in front of them. JDG was still looking to pave the Golden Road and would undoubtedly be paying close attention to their opposition. Gamayusi made sure to use the opportunity to send a message.
T1은 LPL한테 지지 않습니다.
And with that, the stage was set. T1 was 3 wins away from returning to the World's Finals, and all that stood between them and their second chance at victory was one more ghost from Faker's past.
For the Infernal Chain, looking for the lockup. Line owner immediately with the follow-up engage. But now they're just fish caught in the barrel. T1 stepping in and dominating the Herald's fight. The lockup there from Guma from so far away. Owner coming in, the pullback on a Mystic, trying not to stick around for too long. One taken down already. Knight now going in, trying to turn it back. Guma says not today.
That's a clean ace. That's got to be the game. I think they can push for the end.
The Nexus, lower and lower. T1 drawing first blood in this series.
After taking the first game, T1 and JDG would then trade the next 2, putting T1 ahead on match point. Going into Game 4, Ruler could feel the championship slipping through his fingers, the Golden Road about to come to an end. But in hindsight, he should have known better. All of Ruler's roads, golden or not, always led back to Faker.
T1 just need to weather the storm. TP coming in, Faker looking to make the play against Ruler.
Owner goes in. T1 in the clutch are too damn clean. They've taken down BLG. They've taken down LNG. It is not LPL versus LCK. It is T1 versus the LPL, and they like those odds.
They had beaten old rivals, they had halted construction on the Golden Road, and they had scraped and clawed for every step they took beyond the heartbreak of the previous year. Now, just one match stood between Faker and his redemption.
Welcome everyone to the League of Legends 2023 Worlds Final live from the Gocheok Skydome in Seoul, South Korea.
보통 좀 긴장을 하고 있으면은 상혁이 형이 그런 말들을 좀 해주는 것 같거든요. 긴장하지 마라. 어차피 똑같은 경기다. 그냥 스크림 때처럼만 하자. 상혁이 형이 하는 말이라서 좀 더 도움이 되고 의미가 되는 경우가 있었던 것 같습니다.
Even for a quiet team, T1 was abnormally quiet on the drive into the venue. They could have been simply trying to focus. Or perhaps they were saving everything they wanted to say for the stage.
And we are just moments away from getting onto the Rift.
Game number 1 is upon us.
7 years since his last and 10 years since his first, and the only time he'd ever play for a championship on his native soil. The eyes of a nation fell on Faker for what was thought to be his last dance.
Worlds 2023 game number 1. Worries there at all as Crisp is under the turret. They throw the barrel, but Zayas has found 2 with the ultimate light. Goes down so low, but isn't going to survive. Way trying out, and I think T1 are just going to end game 1 here. Here we are into game number 2. Have a turret here. The Charm is going to split them. Carrier tries to get it. He goes forward and then just explodes, and then Ona thinks that that's his moment. It's a double again.
In a best-of-5 match, to determine the best team in the world, it only took 3 games.
He likes this one though, 1 versus 3. He's absorbing so much, the Emperor's Divide. It comes in, but he's still alive. What's going on? Faker tidies up the burst. Everyone's just exploding as Wei trying to get something done, but it does not matter. T1 are too strong.
형제들 꿈에 그리던 순간이다 이게. 우리 팀 왜 이렇게 잘하?
Has been reignited. T1 will be your 2023 World Champions.
That would be an incredible end to an amazing journey, if that were the end. Instead, in 2024, Faker would put it all on the line once more. Even with nothing left to prove, even with no challenge left to overcome, and going against former teammates, historic rivals, and rising dynasties, Faker would go on to claim MVP honors while bringing home his 5th World Championship. As of the time of this video, Faker has made no mention of his intent to retire, and going into the 2025 season, I know that I, along with many others, will be cheering him on, in the hopes that he somehow manages to pull off the impossible. Again. Being one of the greatest of all time and performing at an absolute peak means many of you probably already knew Faker's story. But if I did a good job, hopefully you understand now that resilience, dedication, and mental toughness were just as much part of that journey as his overall skill. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and until I see you next time, party on.
And if you love the journey more than the end, go ahead, just turn that hourglass around and count to 10. This ain't goodbye no more. Nah, it just began.
Thank you for watching